Philadelphia was the first city that showed us real love. I mean, even before our hometown, you know. What happened is that I was out riding freight trains out on the West Coast, and I met this kid named Mikey Brosnan, who used to book a lot of shows in Philly. He lived at Stalag 13, and I wasn't even in the band yet. And we became friends out there. We were squatting and stuff. And I rode back with him, Jay from Dis Sucks, and I can't remember who else, somebody else from Philly in a van. And we rode back across country with no money, spare changing to get back and stuff. And we got back to the East Coast, and you know, I just connected with him, and I joined the band, and Mikey was booking shows at Fake House, Kill Time, Stalag 13, which was in West Philly. And he's like, hey man, I heard you have a band, you want to come and do some shows? So the first show we played in Philadelphia was at Kill Time, upstairs.
Really?
Yeah. Upstairs at Kill Time, it was us and Dis Sucks, and I can't remember who else. But Adrienne Drugas from Spitboy drove us up in her van, and God bless her. That's a long story in of itself, but she drove us up in her van, and we played a few songs, and I was sick. I couldn't even finish the show, but from there we just started coming up and playing these warehouses a lot, always in West Philly at first, you know, Stalag, Kill Time, Fake House, and we played, the Rotunda? Is that
Yes,
what
it was.
It's a college campus.
We played the Rotunda a few times, and Mikey booked all those shows. Mikey was a really dear friend of mine, and he was killed on November 16th, 2 years ago. It's coming up, by a drunk driver. So when he died, it really screwed up things for me, because Philly, for me, he was Philly, you know, in a huge way. He was a huge part of the scene, you know. He put together a record label to put out our first 7-inch. He put out our first 7-inch, which was a split with a band called Zed, who was from Milwaukee, who had moved to Philly. Kate and Matt and them. And then, you know, we were playing in Stalag and stuff, and getting sort of a following. And like guys from Relapse and other labels were coming to see us. We were called Burn the Priest then, of course. And I think the other labels were kind of scared to sign us because they thought we were just going to implode, because it was just so crazy. We would fight on stage and just break shit, and they're like, holy fuck, these guys are crazy, you know? Yeah. And like Mikey said, well, I put out your 7-inch, nobody signed you, I'll put out your CD. So he maxed out his credit card, and we went up to New England and recorded with Steve Austin, our first record, the Burn the Priest record, and he paid for that. Went up and sang on Suffering Bastard. Awesome. So he was instrumental in bringing us into Philadelphia and blowing us up, period. There's a guy named Ken Adams who does all of our artwork. He's from Delaware. His band used to come and play Stalag, Trailer Park Riot all the time. You know, we met our artist, who we've used for everything, through, you know, the Philly connection. We got our first real fan base through the Philly connection. I made a lot of really good friends in Philly, you know. It was weird, because at home we could play to like 25 people, and then we go to Stalag and it'd be like 300-400 people crammed in there, just crazy. So those were like, for us, you know, Mark, my guitar player, and I, we talk about it sometimes, man, those were really, honestly, some of my happiest memories of being in this band was being in West Philly. And Ways Lounge across the street, where you could buy a 40. Yeah. You know, the total hood like bar, and it was just like, it was badass. Yeah, we one time in the Polish War Veterans Hard, we call it the Podunka Village. We call Palenka Park Podunka Village. So Bob Meadows would book us up there, you know, and he did a lot for us as well. You know, he's been a friend of mine for a long time. And one time we were backstage, and our dressing room was like the head office. And we were back there just raging, getting drunk, and I think some people were smoking some weed and stuff. And the head Polish war veteran came back there, and I'm sitting there with my feet up on his desk, like just chilling, you know. And he was just like, oh, you know. He just lost his crap.
Totally
basically.
kicking it in his office.
Yeah. So, you know, we lost power there once or twice. You know, my microphone wouldn't work. Bob he was a kid then, you know, putting all this stuff on and like stressed.
No beer.
He did a lot for the scene.
Yes, he did.
He booked a whole lot of shows, and you know, his band is really good. I've wound up working with them, you know, helping him out with some vocals and singing on a record. You know, Philly is just, you know, I'm friends with so many people from there. Stinking Lizaveta. That time in West Philly, particularly when there were these warehouse shows, you know, it was really unbeatable. There was something exciting happening there. You know what I mean? It was there. It was in West Philly. It was kind of ghetto, but that was even more exciting. And there was a real scene. You know, we played with so many good bands there. Soylent Green, you know, Logical Nonsense,
God forbid, yeah.
Brutal Truth.
Yeah. Oh,
God forbid. Awesome. You know, I had someone, Mikey's ex-girlfriend Leslie just sent me some old flyers from Stalag the other day in the email, and I just looked at them and, you know, kind of get teary. There were a lot of good bands around then, you know, Kill the Man Who Questions. Kill Time?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, definitely our first show there. We were playing, and I looked up, and there's like, I think it was Rob Banks who recently passed away. I hear. I hope it's not true, but I hear he did. I think it was him and somebody else who's running around huffing starter fluid, like carburetor fluid, like looking like, you know, straight out of 77 UK, big, you know, Liberty Spikes, Mohawks and stuff, you know, with a rag in the circle pit, like huffing like carburetor. what is going on? You know, that was my first Philly show. I was like, holy crap, you know. We played at Kill Time a couple of times, you know. We more played at Stalag, but we played at Kill Time, Fake House, and in Stalag, I believe. You know.
How about your live DVD at the Trocadero?
The reason why we knew we were going to do a live DVD. We were going to have it professionally filmed and stuff by our friend Doug, who's Spangenberg, who's based out of kind of the whole Philly scene. He came up in the Philly hardcore scene. We wanted to film it definitely at Philly for two reasons. A, the crowd is just nuts. Crowd's nuts in Philly, and always has been. And B, man, we wanted to film it there as kind of like a thank you to the Philadelphia scene for really jump starting us, you know? I mean, we would play there for years, and you know, admittedly, I would come home and work in a restaurant and wash dishes for a living, but I could go up and play, you know, a show in Philly, and maybe we go do one in New York or Maryland or somewhere, but the show in Philly was like a highlight. I mean, it was like, holy crap, people actually like us. We got mad love from Philly. It was ridiculous, you know, so it's been hugely instrumental for us. I mean, people were coming down from New York, label people, to see us in a fucking warehouse because they're like, yo, you gotta go check these guys out. They're like this weird metal band playing in like the punk and hardcore scene, you know?
That's all I heard of you.
Because like, you know, my guys are like metal guys. I come from the punk scene. I come from the hardcore scene. That's what I grew up with, not metal. And I kind of slid in there because of my connections and brought my band with me. And we kind of learned how to be a band in Philly, like in front of people, in front of larger groups of people, because 300 people was a huge audience at that time.
Especially in like a basement or warehouse.
Yeah, in a warehouse. I mean, like I said, they were really, I talked to my guitar player Mark about it, and it's just like, wow, you know, those were like just the greatest times. Unbelievably happy memories there. And like I said, my friend Mikey, you know, he was hugely, hugely important to us as a band. We would not be here without him, without putting out a record, without booking shows, without putting our name out. You know, we dedicated Wrath to him. You know, after he got killed. So sad, but I love Philly, man. I love going back there. You know, one thing I like about Philly is, you know, it's got a lot of culture, but it's not as huge and impersonal as like New York.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I love New York. I love hanging out there, but Philly, there's a community. There's a feeling of community, and you know, like different neighborhoods. You know, you get to know everyone and so forth. You know. It was really neat to see in West Philly, in that sort of ghetto neighborhood, like this row of warehouses and a house on the end where half the band members live, and like the people in the neighborhood being cool with them, you know. It was just it's a neat community vibe there, and yeah, it can be rough, but so can my town, you know. #1 murder per capita a lot of times. I love it. Love Philly, and cannot thank you enough, Philadelphia, for what you've done for us. We had the show that we never got to play. Mark and I were actually talking about this earlier today. We played with a band called Coalesce, right?
So good.
And they, surprisingly enough, played before us. We were Burn the Priest then, and I think Mikey told me, or someone told me, is because, ironically, they, in a nationwide sense, they were a much bigger band than us. But they were like, we want you to play after Coalesce. We don't want people to leave after you play. And I'm like, all right, we don't even have a record deal. So we started playing, and there's this kid, I'm walking through Stalag, and there's this kid, Aaron, who happened to be dating Kathy. Do you know Tattoo Mom Kathy? Sugar Mom? She owns Tattoo Sugar Mom.
Yeah.
Who was also a big supporter of ours over the years and gave us many free beers and let us sleep in a restaurant and fed us for free. God bless her. Aaron was dating her, and I'm walking through Stalag, and he's like, hey man, give me your beer. I had a 40. I'm like, okay, I thought he wanted some beer. He just turns to this dude and goes, and smashes him. Some kid from like the suburbs, right? Some like straight edge kid or something, because he had punched his girlfriend. And that set it off. And it was fucking nuts, like full on riot in Stalag. The cops showed up with like shields and batons and stuff. There was dudes with dogs, crusty punks with pit bulls. There was a guy outside, like, he had set his dog on someone, you know. And we were like, holy fuck. We never even got to play that night. We loaded our gear out, you know, and split. They locked the place. The cops left, but the cops came in with like
a riot
to mace everyone. It was intense, man. It was real intense. We left, you know, and later people came back to the warehouse, was shooting at it. Just it was nuts, you know.